There we go. That's working. That's good. I'm gonna have to turn that internet off. Now I'm distracted. Oh yeah, that's what I was doing. There we go. Thing is like blasting loud. What's up? You're not even in the stream. Oh, that's why.
Oh yeah, big time. Whoa.
What's up? It's Curse. It's my
Ganger.
It's my ganger day. We out here ganging it up.
Ganging it up. Not laming it up.
No lames in this gang.
Nope. Just balloons. Just balloons.
But yeah, it is the day of the birth for me, and thought I would do some reaction today, cause fuck it. Yeah. And yeah. Maybe play a game.
Maybe play some James. Play the game.
But you know, let's hop right into it.
Let's do it.
We don't even know what we're reacting to today, so that's what's happening. And I forgot to put the links in the description. I'll do that later.
In early October 2022, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia helped slash oil production by 2 million barrels a day, or a reduction of 2% of the world's total oil supply. This manipulation caused international oil prices to skyrocket, creating a major increase in revenue for Russia's war effort. This has turned US and Saudi relations upside down. It's been seen as a shock for Saudi Arabia to seemingly out of the blue betray their unofficial friendship with the United States like this. So why is Saudi Arabia...
I mean, what have they done in the past? I mean, I'm not racist, or maybe I am, who knows. But when I see somebody, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, green, orange, purple, if you wear a ski mask or if you wear fucking nothing. If I look at you in the eyes and I see something, I see that sparkle, not even sparkle, the lack of sparkle, I should say. Yeah, I know what they're about. And I'm telling you, when I look at people that lead Saudi Arabia in the past and now, I don't see a sparkle. So,
we're missing.
What the fuck are we doing? Oh wait, I know. It's all about money, isn't it? It's all about money, isn't it?
Becoming closer allies with Russia, and what impact could it have on our national security? We'll start with the country's background. After the fall of the Ottoman Empire in World War I, Saudi Arabia united behind the descendants of the dynasty, and the modern nation was born.
Dude, does that guy,
you see, during King Saul,
his thing, does that not look like he has fucking horns coming out of his head?
There's horns there.
It looks like he's got horns, bro.
There's horns.
What's going on with my video? Are we not? They're not even seeing what we're seeing.
You're not seeing it yet?
I don't think so, no. What the fuck, man? Well, we're gonna show you this dude with his horns. Don't you worry.
You guys gotta see.
Abazez Ahuz! He's got some crazy horns. I think they all
1945 meeting with U.S. President Roosevelt. The two bonded over their shared physical ailments.
It's just like him, bro. Look at that.
It's just him.
What the fuck?
And the other dude has some spray paint on the side of his head.
Oh my god, you got a spray on.
guys becoming buddies over complaining about back pain together. This conversation would set the course for these two nations for decades to come. Roosevelt and King Saud came to an agreement where Roosevelt agreed to provide diplomatic and military training to the upstart country in return for access to Saudi Arabia's vast oil reserves. The best bromances are always mutually beneficial. Oil companies began swarming Saudi Arabia, bringing enormous amounts of wealth with them.
What he's saying is money. They did everything to make money for their two countries through oil. And that's why we have good relations. And any relation that is based off of money is not a good relation.
Them to the fledgling government. They lucked out with the draw of the resources on the settlers of Catan board. Today, Saudi Arabia has a population of 35 million people, and it's the largest country in the Middle East, located directly in the center of the Arabian Peninsula. Along its 830,000 square mile territory, it borders UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Iraq, Jordan, Yemen, and Oman. From 1993 to 2010, they were the world's largest oil producer. Most oil production in the nation was actually originally done by American companies. Later in the 20th century, by the late 1970s and early 1980s, Saudi Arabia had regained ownership of most of the oil production by buying out these foreign companies. Even though they had this high level of cooperation, the United States and Saudi Arabia often clashed over international incidents. The first event occurred in 1973. This was when Saudi Arabia was one of the first countries to leverage their oil production as a weapon against the West. This had never really been done effectively before, a move that has had reverberating consequences all the way to this day. During this time, the United States...
Did you hear what year he said? I was trying to...
76, I think.
Is it really that late? Long ago? I don't think so.
This event occurred in 1973.
Wow, really?
This
73. Dyslexic.
I am dyslexic.
This was when Saudi Arabia was one of the first countries to leverage their oil production as a weapon against the West.
I can't read
this had never really been done effectively before, a move that has had reverberating consequences all the way to this day. During this time, the United States and other Western nations supported Israel in their fight against Iran and Egypt during the Yom Kippur War. President Nixon at the time agreed to send $2.2 billion in weapons assistance to Israel. This led to Saudi Arabian King Faisal leading a boycott of oil exports to the U.S. from October 1973 to March 1974. A global recession ensued from the infamous gas shortages, high inflation, and price hikes.
I don't know about that because I wasn't alive, to be honest. But I know that feeling for sure. It's happened a few times in my lifetime.
Occurred due to this in America in the 1970s. The price of gas soared by 40% in November of 1973 alone. By this time, Saudi Arabia was one of the world's largest suppliers
You really
of oil.
want to be with all those guys?
Yes, so badly.
I mean, I don't know. They could be awesome gentlemen, honestly, but
You couldn't leave the other guy. You can be the only dude. What the hell?
bro,
That's a scary sight.
you should at least put yourself in black and white.
Oil, and this move was able to almost single-handedly cripple the American economy. U.S.-Saudi relations did manage to normalize again during the 1980s due to rapid economic and technological expansion, but America would make energy independence a top priority going forward. But Saudi Arabia at the time gained generally favorable opinions by most people in the West, and we'll see why. In the 1990s, when Iraq invaded a small country of Kuwait, Saudi Arabia was quick to call upon the assistance of the United States for military protection. They feared an Iraqi attack into their northern oil fields. A US-led coalition responded with Operation Desert Shield. The United States used Saudi Arabia as a staging area for Operation Desert Shield, which would push Iraq out of Kuwait and back over their own border.
Crazy, man. Have you seen anything about that? Oh my God, buddy.
I've heard of some stuff.
It's crazy. We just rolled into Iraq. It was basically the first show of modern weapons of like grand or like mass scale, at a mass scale.
Yeah.
And dude, like literally, I mean, from what I could hear, it was like, over in the first 48 hours, but Like it was basically over in like 2 weeks
Yeah, yeah.
or something crazy like
Which
that.
is fast.
Yeah, no, but like it was because it was like just the way they explained it, it was like we just took out all of their stuff instantly and then rolled in our tanks and shit.
Yeah.
The best way to describe the US and Saudi Arabian relationship is with this term that you hear called realpolitik. It's kind of a German word for realistic politics. It means engaging in diplomatic policies that are based primarily on considerations of given circumstances and factors rather than strictly binding yourself to explicit ideological notions or moral and ethical premises. So this relationship has been based on practical, economic, and security considerations, even though the ideological position of these two countries couldn't be more different when it comes to things like democracy, women's rights, political prisoners, freedom of the press. Realpolitik reminds me of a term that us average infantrymen have too. We like to say, it is what it is. Now, modern-day Saudi Arabia is currently run by their King Salman and his son, the Crown Prince / Prime Minister Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, who handles most economic and diplomatic roles. It's really incredible how much power this guy has.
That's a scary photo. It's not Bin Laden. Because he's wearing a thingamajiggy and has a beard does not make him Bin Laden.
He's been dead. That's scary.
Crown Prince / Prime Minister.
Look how happy that man is. He's a Chad.
Mohammed bin Salman Al Saud, who handles most economic and diplomatic.
Look at that.
It's Joe Biden.
No, where? What? No, that's Putin, buddy. And Putin is scary.
Yeah,
Look at that scary man.
Where's he, Russian?
Bruh. You think he's Russian.
He is Russian?
No, he's the leader of Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
No, he's the fucking leader of Russia, dude.
But you want to lead those dudes. He's more like the captain of Russia.
He's more like the fucking dictator of Russia.
Yeah.
I don't even. From what America says, he's a dictator.
Roles, it's really incredible how much power this guy has. It's important to note that Mohammed bin Salman is a major reason why the relationship with the US and Saudi Arabia is changing right now. This guy is consolidating power and leaning towards authoritarian forms of government. The royal family of Saudi Arabia have had near absolute control over all aspects of government, and they've had the ability to make unilateral decisions to enact any policy they see fit. Despite the United States having a history of not really taking a liking to kings and monarchies in general, in 2021 alone, the US and Saudi Arabia traded around $24 billion. And they've had a constant rotation
how is that
against the US.
Independent in our own fuel and gases or whatever. How does that make us independent?
I think that's what we're pushing for, but I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah, by putting billions of dollars into it, Why don't you put billions of dollars into like a fucking oil reserve in Alaska or something? Oh, right, that's right. The fucking, what are they called? Oh, god damn. People don't like guns. No offense to people that don't like guns. I mean, you believe what you believe, but if we could just drill in Alaska, we wouldn't have issues with Saudi Arabia. But then we would have probably more global issues. So, pick your poison, right?
Yeah. Countries, yeah.
It's also been interpreted by President Biden as political manipulation by the Saudis of the American midterm elections in favor of the Republicans. Saudi Arabia claims that the politics has nothing to do with it, and in some ways, I think they might not be lying. If you look at their profit numbers, you can see their reluctance to sanction Russia has a lot to do with economic incentives that are at play here. For instance, the Saudi Arabian oil company,
because Russia, I forget how much. I think it's like 3% of the world's oil and gas. At least it is for America. I'm not sure about the whole world, but um, after Europe, obviously the USA, and well, the whole NATO, obviously, all of them get their gas from other places now. So a big supplier of oil, gas is Russia, but without Russia, you're gonna go to Saudi Arabia or other allied countries that have oil and gas, and that's why there's this really small country. I forget what it is, but I'm sure people know what it is. There's a small country that is like the richest country right now, or one of them.
Abu Dhabi?
No, because of first of all, because of the war in Russia, and their biggest export is gas and oil. So because of this war, it's changing the world rapidly.
Aramco reported on November 1st, 2022, they had earned $42 billion in the third quarter, which is 4 times higher than their numbers at the same time in 2020. $18 billion from that will be paid as a dividend straight to the Saudi Arabian government. We might have generally good relations with Saudi Arabia, but we're not the only ones in there shaking hands with the king. They are well known to have strong relations with both Russia and China. Why is that? Well, for starters, China is the world's biggest importer of Saudi oil, because Russia and Saudi Arabia combined control just over 20% of the world's oil production. You'll see them working together in order to control market prices. But there's an elephant in the room. All these countries are oppressive, authoritarian dictatorships of some kind. So what's pushing these countries closer and closer together? A revolution in America, the shale revolution. Looking at American oil production reports.
So, let me just going into theory, tinfoil hat, cap it on before he says anything about Shell. Fucking Shell's doing all of this because Russia went to war over oil and trying to get a certain spot in Ukraine, which Shell and I believe Mobil had a lucrative deal with Ukraine to make billions and trillions of dollars through their oil, and Ukraine was obviously going to profit from that and take Russia out of compete with Russia for their oil. So obviously Russia went to war for the oil, and all the places that they after the Kyiv incident, they tried to they did invade and captured for a bit. Those places were the places that these gas plants were supposedly going to be made, and they never were because of the war. So yeah, they're still gonna try to make their money. Shell is still gonna make their money. I mean, how do you think these billion-dollar companies work?
By the U.S. Energy Information Administration, there has been a major rise in production over the past 10 years. The shale oil boom that started in 2006 in the United States changed everything. New fracking technologies allowed the U.S. to reduce its reliance on foreign oil markets by doubling production from a low point of less than 7 million barrels a day in 2007 to nearly 18 million barrels a day by 2020. The U.S. had surpassed Saudi Arabia as the world's largest oil producer. This decreased Saudi Arabia's influence and was a major threat to their oil-based economy. It's naturally led to a decrease in imports from Saudi Arabia, and as of August 2022, imports are now as low as they've been in 30 years. Of course, since Saudi Arabia's entire economy is based on oil production, you can see why they would seek to strengthen their relationship with Russia as a trading partner, and China as an oil...
Yes. And I'm so glad that I mentioned what I said before. He said all that, because that makes perfect sense from what I just said.
Importer. There are always unintended consequences to every move. By reducing reliance on Saudi Arabian oil to reduce the risk of weaponized oil, The United States may have inadvertently created an incentive for Saudi Arabia to create closer ties with Russia and China, although the incompatible ideologies of these two countries are also pushing them apart. But we're forgetting one thing that has kept these two strange bedfellows, the United States and Saudi Arabia, in bed
That's
together
not
up
what
until now.
I don't want to be in bed with Saudi Arabians. I'm sorry. Not with the whole country. That's a lot of people.
Now, the United States has overwhelmingly been Saudi Arabia's primary military partner throughout history, with consistent troop rotations there since the early 1990s. Part of what has kept the Saudis' relationship warm and fuzzy with the United States has been major arms sales. America made up 37% of global arms exports during the last 5 years, and guess who accounted for a quarter of those sales? Saudi Arabia. Every US president from Obama to Trump and Biden, all of them have supported massive arms sales to Saudi Arabia. During Obama administration between 2011 and 2015, Saudi Arabia was the destination for nearly 10% of all US arms exports. Saudi Arabia signed billions of dollars of deals with US companies like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon, General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, all of this in spite of the fact that the US State Department report found, quote, Saudi donors and unregulated charities have been a major source of financing to extremist and terrorist groups over the past 25 years. The report goes on to state that Saudi Arabia was a place where al-Qaeda raised money directly from individuals and through charities, and indicates that charities with significant Saudi government sponsorship may have diverted funding to al-Qaeda. The United States, of course, looks past this because it is what it is. Not many people realize just how important that defense support from the United States is to Saudi Arabia. They've consistently been ranked #1 as the highest percentage of GDP spent on defense year after year. In 2015, they spent $87 billion, or 18%.
I thought we were the highest. I guess not. Give me a minute, people. What up? Streaming. Not now. Maybe. Alright. Huh? Okay. Peace. Ignore the N-word.
Of their GDP on their defense, an insane proportion when you consider most countries, including the US and China, don't break 4%. So why the high spend, Saudi Arabia? Their real worry comes from Iran, its largest military threat, which is located just across the Arabian Gulf. They're a major balance of power against Iran.
Yeah,
The primary mission
Iran's
of
a
the
big
US
asshole to the Americans and I guess to Saudi Arabia and Israel. I think I said
Everybody.
and everybody. Just basically all their neighbors. You know, they're just like fuck you and fuck you.
The Saudi dependence on US military equipment might be beginning to change, though, which could further upset the balance of power.
That wouldn't be good, because if they go and buy other arms and we still need oil, then they have the monopoly over the market. So
September of 2021, Russia and Saudi Arabia signed a military cooperation agreement, which was aimed at increasing the number of Russian military trade and manufacturing between.
Oh, well, that's okay. I don't care about that. They're gonna have fucking dirt arms that break when you fucking shoot them 3 times. They're all rusted. Look it up. All of fucking Russia arms, they're fucking from 1980s. That's their newest equipment. All right? Because all of their newest equipment was just lost in Ukraine, so they're gonna have quite a hard time fucking fighting Americans if they're gonna be using Russian arms, as you can see.
The two nations.
So I mean, that's great.
Russia
Do it up. Do it up, bro. You guys think that you're big broing us because you're buying from somebody else? Do it up. See what happens.
Agreed to sell $3 billion worth of equipment to the Saudi kingdom, which included manufacturing rights to the Cornet missile launchers, MLRS, automatic grenade launchers, AK rifles, and ammo. And in some regards, from Saudi Arabia's
that
point
was
of
a nice AK. That was like a 2016 AK. And I guarantee you it's in Ukrainian hands now.
view, it makes sense to be besties with Russia. They appear to be holding many of the same values in collaboration with each other, including a strong preference for authoritarian forms of government. This appears to be more evidence of the world splitting along authoritarian and democratic lines. Hopefully not to be a setup for World War III.
Is that an American Democrat or a Russian Democrat?
Finding a way to cooperate with countries that you despise to the very core is a part of what has prevented World War III up until now. The Saudis signed this deal with Russia for military equipment right as the US had announced that they would be withdrawing 8 of its Patriot air defense systems and THAAD anti-ballistic missile systems for the region.
Whew.
While the agreement with
Damn. That would be like taking away fucking Call of Duty. Yeah, that'd be like taking away Call of Duty forever and not being able to play it for all of 2023. Bruh. That's rough. I would be pissed too if I was Saudi Arabians.
Russia ended up fizzling out. Further talks discussed the purchase of more complex equipment such as ballistic missiles, air defense systems, and Su-57 fighters. But why is Saudi Arabia looking to get this Russian equipment if it isn't as technologically advanced as the US equipment? One of the big reasons is due to its war in Yemen. Saudi Arabia is attempting to fight off the Iranian-backed Houthi rebel groups in Yemen. The civil war in Yemen has been a humanitarian nightmare, one that the US has distanced itself from due to the heavy civilian casualties inflicted by Saudi Arabian-led airstrikes. The United States sells military equipment and ammo with strings attached, and that string is a severe limit on how and where the weapons are used to ensure no civilians are hurt.
Ah, of course we do. We gotta put that baby monitor on the guns. Fucking Americans. Then we run around with the guns like,
Yeah.
a little bit hypocritical, but I know, we're working on it.
Russian arms sales, however, don't have these strings attached. Saudi Arabia sees their weapons not only as a way to
Well, did you know that they were just deemed as a terrorist state by all of Europe? So, I mean,
conduct the war against Yemen rebels as they see fit, but also to begin their own export of manufactured military goods. This is a luxury not afforded by US military contracts. This follows a trend of the Crown Prince seeking out cooperation from Russia, while his father, the king, typically favored the United States over other nations. The king gave up the title of prime minister to his son, the Crown Prince, just this September, further giving him the ability to separate Saudi Arabia from American dependence. All of this leads us to where we are today. Saudi Arabia has only increased their friendship with Putin and has had questionable reactions to his invasion of Ukraine. Analysts explain the most Arab nations, Saudi Arabia included, view the conflict in Ukraine as, quote, a complicated European conflict which does not require Arab states to stand against Vladimir Putin's government, and that Arab statesmen do not believe their government should burn bridges with Moscow because of this conflict. Because of this, Saudi Arabia
yeah, it did. I mean, again, it's about money, but is it really the smartest choice for Saudi Arabia in the long run to side with a terrorist organization, allegedly? But yeah, I mean, it doesn't surprise me. To be honest, it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Especially if we have baby monitors on our guns.
hasn't placed any sanctions on trade with Russia, which only increased trade as Russia quickly ran out of trading partners after the invasion. Since the start of the war, Saudi Arabia Kingdom Holding Company has invested $500 million into Russian companies like Gazprom, Rosneft, and Lukoil. There have been no efforts to hinder Russia's ability to wage war, though, which is to the disapproval of the West. Saudi Arabia, along with Turkey, did, however, help facilitate prisoner exchanges of almost 300 individuals between Russia and Ukraine. Speculation into Saudi motives sends two messages. The first...
That's very interesting. So, that's a smart move by the gentleman with the demon things, or whatever you call those fucking things. It's very smart of him to play both hands here, obviously, because it's definitely not always smart to play both hands. But in this case it is, just because of how America deals with what they deal with, and with their economic standings with Saudi Arabia, and also the political standpoint that America stands on the war with Ukraine. So with Saudi Arabia allowing or ensuring that there was a trade for Ukrainian soldiers, that still brings favor in the eyes of the European countries and the West.
First is that
Even
Saudi
though they're
Arabia
doing deals
is
with
not
Russia.
controlled by the United States, despite their military cooperation. And second, that they are adamant to preserve their relationship with Russia, specifically regarding the oil economy, which brings us to the recent falling out between Saudi Arabia and the United States. Since the move to lessen oil production and the resulting falling out between the US and Saudi Arabia, the White House has stated that it will need to, quote, reevaluate its relationship. Many US government officials
we really do
called...
need to reevaluate. We've been needed to reevaluate what the fuck we're doing. I'm pretty sure it was our four founders that said, do not get involved with international trade. And here we are. But anyways, moving on.
Trying to finish fights, and that's it! That's it! It's over!
And I've talked about it on the air.
He's out! It's over!
Lyoto Machida.
Oh god, you're
We
gonna
see
know
the
more
very
about this
technical
guy.
Machida, and he hurt him!
This is going to be over.
So let's get up here. Let's
We've
start
heard
it
for
up.
years that karate doesn't work in MMA. Then Lyoto Machida came along and proved otherwise.
So I always wondered, like, I mean, he just looks like a baby.
Big trouble! He got rocked! Oh, another shot! He's getting teed off on!
And his hands look
Performing
like
in the
little
most competitive arenas around the world for over 20 years, the Brazilian Dragon has earned a reputation of a cold-blooded samurai, stalking up a collection of unique
Oh, dude.
knockouts.
That was pretty crazy. That guy's huge compared to him.
That was wild.
That guy was huge compared to him. Fucked him up.
It's time to recollect the story about the Shotokan karate master who defied expectations and took the UFC championship belt.
When did that happen? That's not back in the day.
He's not current. 20.
Lyoto is the third son of the famous karate practitioner Yoshizo Machida. The future clan founder was 22 years old when he moved to Brazil from the
I would
land of
not
the
wanna
rising
meet that guy up in the streets.
sun. In the new country, the immigrant traveled to different cities, teaching martial arts to local people. When my father arrived in Brazil, he did not know the language.
Dude, what? Like, now he looks like a man.
Yeah. What? Oh, it's the B. Oh.
He had nothing but
Yeah,
one
he looks
suitcase
like-
full of clothes and a desire to spread karate. He dedicated his life to it. Yoshizo married a local girl who bore him 4 sons. Soon the master settled in the city
Oh,
of
was that
Belém
his dad?
and opened an academy. As soon as the brothers could walk, the father began to indulge them in the Japanese combat style. I started in martial arts when I was 3 or 4 years old. My father's main concern was to introduce us to the philosophical side of the fight. Not to become a proper athlete, but a concern with forming an upstanding citizen. The regimen at Machida's academy was strict. Each class started at 5 a.m. These were tough conditions, and the atmosphere of absolute discipline tempered the youth. My father was very demanding with us. I complained that I didn't want to get up at 5 a.m., and he would say, above all, you must first beat yourself. At the age of
That's
13,
true. And he's not talking about beating yourself. Please don't do that at home. That was a professional move. He's talking about mentally fighting yourself with the
With negative habits.
right, or not, like fighting the confidence that you should have, or you know automatically have, and fighting that with negative thoughts, or maybe a past event that happened where you might have lost a fight, and to pass that loss of a fight, you have to first confront yourself and be okay with the journey that you're on to become the fighter to beat that fight that you just lost. And I think that's really what he's getting at with what he just said.
Lyoto received a black belt and started to compete. He defeated all the peers, yet was powerless against the older brother, Shinzo. The youngster spent 4 years trying to defeat his sibling, and when that day came, made a decision to dedicate his life to martial arts. Lyoto participated in many national tournaments, being a devoted follower of karate.
But what are you doing?
Over time, he got involved in other fighting disciplines. Behind his father's back, the son explored new techniques.
Is this
When I was
Baka?
15 years
Baki,
old,
I mean?
I watched the UFC
Is
for
this
the
Baki?
first time. I already started training jiu-jitsu and wanted to learn other styles, so I can someday compete in an event like this. Back then,
Oh, really?
Royce Gracie was shining in the octagon, defeating rivals despite being moderately sized. When
Yeah, I know nothing
Lyoto
about
expressed
fighting,
the
by the way,
desire to
folks.
compete in
This is
MMA
the
to his
fighting
father, the old master was strongly opposed to it. He considered brawling in a cage an abomination that had nothing to do with martial arts. However, the future star insisted on his wishes, regardless of Dad's disapproval. When Yoshizo accepted that Lyoto really wanted to be a fighter, he decided to introduce his son to an old friend, Antonio Inoki. The legendary Japanese pro wrestler who fought the great Muhammad Ali under a hybrid rule set in 1976 was engaged in promotional activities in the early 2000s. Soon, Machida moved to Japan, where the
That looked
preparation
like the Chinese version of No, that was definitely the Chinese version of John Cena. Let's pull it back,
We need to see it.
and we need to elaborate.
You can't see me.
Analysis.
accepted that Lyoto really wanted to be a fighter. He decided to introduce his son to an old friend,
Not this guy.
Antonio Inoki. The legendary
that guy.
Japanese pro wrestler who fought the great Muhammad
that's the
Ali under a
Chinese
hybrid
John
rule
Cena.
set in 1976 was engaged in promotional
Look!
activities in the early 2000s.
That is so John Cena, but Chinese.
That's John retarded.
Don't, you can't say that.
I know. Repented.
No, seriously though, that looks like John Cena.
That does.
That seriously looks like John
I think
Cena.
it is him.
It's not John Cena. John Cena's not Chinese.
Cena.
I'm pretty sure he actually like lived in
Japan.
Japan, was it? Yeah.
I think he was with the Japanese lady too. Also in the
2000s. Soon, Machida moved to Japan, where the preparation began for his MMA debut under the
Guy
new
looks like a
patron's
beast.
guidance. For the next 3 years, Lyoto wandered around different cities in Japan, diligently developing his style. When the Brazilian was ready, Antonio Inoki set him up
He's
to
a
participate at a
Brazilian?
major Ultimate Crush event. The 220-pound karate adherent appeared in the arena wearing an extravagant attire, chosen by creative Japanese managers. Back then, Lyoto was reluctant to use his family craft in the ring, leaning more into his wrestling instead. He dominated throughout the contest, leaving no chance for the opponent. Having won by unanimous decision, Machida received a trademark congratulation from the great mentor. The legend goes that when Antonio Inoki slaps a fighter, he becomes more successful. But then I did not know about it at all. Later, when everything was explained to me, I told him, you could hit me in the face as much.
Dude, that's great, bro. I could see it though. You could see his reaction. You could see the dude's reaction, bro, from that hit.
Dude, he just got his ass kicked for fucking 5 rounds.
I know, no, he won, but
Yeah, but his trainer comes up.
yeah, I know. He's like, did you see him though? For like, you can't even see his face, but you can tell.
A trademark
Just by-
congratulation from the great mentor.
See?
The
He has
legend
no idea
goes
what
that when
that was
Antonio Inoki slaps a fighter, he becomes more successful. But then I did not know about it at all. Later, when everything was explained,
Did you? He says he didn't even know about it.
Even after I get my ass kicked for 5 rounds, well, we won the fight. Lyoto won the fight, but even after
He can't probably kick his ass.
I'm still pressing charges on that old fucking John Cena looking ass nigga.
Bruh, did you hear him? He didn't even know it was coming, bro.
No, he had no idea.
explained to me, I told him, you could hit me in the face as much as you like.
I think
Following
he's-
a-
I think he is missing a few brain cells from
that.
From that, and probably from other fights. Because
Successful debut, the
I mean, it's
25-year-old
a-
Lyoto performed at
it's
a
a-
jungle fight event, crossing paths with the future tough Season 1 finalist, Stephan Bonner.
An amazing, nice guy.
This time, the prospect was completely focused on karate. The Brazilian calmly kept his distance, occasionally exploding with sharp attacks.
So fast, but
You can see how he stands. Oh, Bonner then went up for a kick to the midsection and paid for it.
Bonner tried to return the favor. Even so, the skill gap was too wide.
against the corner, got to get him into the ropes.
Another left lands and drops Bonner.
Over 5 minutes, Machida rearranged the opponent's face to such an extent that the
So, oh yeah, Stephen Bonner had bad, he also had issues with, like, anger issues. Like, all fighters have anger problems. Like, he would, like, punch someone after the fight, after the whistle, after the bell type shit. So the UFC started cracking down. But this is before the
doctors intervened and stopped the contest.
Oh my goodness.
That's a good stoppage. That's just dangerous for the fighter. That's a really good stop.
In December 2003,
Yeah, all fucking
Lyoto
ripped
returned to Japan to share the ring with Rich Franklin. The future UFC title holder was on a streak of 14 finishes in a row and had never tasted defeat at the professional level. Machida was working the body and the head. Franklin tried to seize the initiative, but the karate expert was merciless on the counter. After another intercepting cross, he finished the bout with a classic combination Maegiri Gyakuzuki. With 3 victories in quick succession, Lyoto got a fight at the prestigious K1 tournament. The kickboxing world champion Michael McDonald, who had just made his MMA debut, volunteered to oppose the traditional martial art expert. In the first minute, Machida closed the distance and slammed the American to the floor. Subsequent to a short struggle, he applied heavy pressure from top half guard and pressed his forearm into the
I'm
opponent's
just
throat.
impressed at this point. This guy's actually impressing me.
In May 2004, the young upstart met the karate world champion and K1 legend, Sam
Like,
Greco.
I mean, I've seen fights. I've seen American fights. I've seen a lot of fights. I've seen fights, and they don't interest me.
K1.
And I can't. I mean, this is interesting me. I can't even fucking speak at the moment because this guy's like, whoa, damn, like whoa, like maybe I seriously don't want to meet this guy in the streets.
Despite the size and experience disadvantage, Machida looked decent on the feet and swayed the judges in his favor by implementing
He
grappling.
just makes he makes all of these grown men look like children. He makes them look like kids.
A year later, he fought the wandering UFC 170-pound king, BJ Penn, who at that time held a record of 9-1. In the first round, Penn found the mark with signature hooks. But faded quickly, which the Brazilian capitalized on, winning by unanimous decision. Soon, Machida was on his way to the States for a new career chapter.
He
The
doesn't
former
even look
local
built
league
like
champion Vernon White welcomed him. Lyoto was one step ahead for 3 rounds,
So
taking
beat
a
this guy.
unanimous decision.
Somebody has to beat him. Well, we'll get to it probably. This is a long video, boys and girls.
Oh, man, he walked right into a left hand by Machida. And White. Oh, look at this. Oh, that was a beautiful.
6 months later, in 2006, the organization was purchased by the UFC. And so, at the age of 28, the Brazilian found himself on the Ultimate Promotions
So
roster.
he's Brazilian.
Yeah, and all those.
When
were
Machida
before
first
his
appeared in the UFC, many
professional
doubted
debut.
Why did he do shit in China?
To train for his fights.
The Chinese people have the best fighting or something?
The best jiu-jitsu. Well, it depends. Brazil's really good with jiu-jitsu, but you can learn different things from the different cultures. So if you go to Brazil, you're gonna get a lot of jiu-jitsu. You go to Korea, there's gonna be a lot of BJJ, which is stand-up kickboxing, basically. K1 is kickboxing. You have shin pads, boxing gloves. You can't throw elbows. Just boxing and kicks. If you throw an elbow, you're ejected. That's Ultimate Fighting, UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And under UFC is Bellator, which is like the NBA's G League. Before you do the NBA, you have Bellator. And
Yeah.
he skipped Bellator. I think.
What is he doing now right here?
This is his UFC debut. Dana White's the head dude. This is his shit.
the effectiveness of karate, and some went so far as to say that the traditional martial arts representatives
So,
were doomed.
UFC, are you allowed to fight any style or what?
Yep. The only thing you can't bite, you can't headbutt. And you can't throw, you can throw elbows, you just can't throw a 12-6, which is directly, if any of you guys know what a clock looks like, it's 12 to 6. A complete vertical elbow, you cannot throw that at any point. You can throw slants, you can throw a 7-5, you can throw a 9, whatever you want to call it. You can throw angles, you can't throw a direct down elbow.
Why is that too much?
Can't bite, can't kick in the nuts.
Could it like be fatal or something?
It could be a fatal blow.
Yeah.
But any blow could be fatal.
Well, yeah, a few people have died in the ring
Yep.
from hits.
Kimbo
Doomed in
Slice
modern
might have.
MMA. Therefore, the Dragon, as the Brazilian was called in America, had to not only realize personal ambitions in the octagon, but also prove the viability of his father's teachings. Lyoto joined the light heavyweight
it's his
division
father.
and kicked off the journey to the top.
Wait, whose father?
During the first 8 months on the biggest scene, he scored 3 straight wins, displaying immaculate distance control
And he caught him again.
and
I know, they
spearing
look like they
attacks.
don't even-
Yelling out for you. More than anything else.
Yeah, he looks very frustrated.
There's another left. Trying to get the lead. Got 1, got 2, got 3, got 4, 5, 6, 7. Knees from Machida goes he.
Bruh.
Having asserted himself, Machida entered the title race and got a big noise opponent, none other than Sokuju. Nicknamed as the African Killer, he possessed monstrous power and was famous for a series of jaw-dropping upsets in Pride FC.
You don't have to look like that.
He was a guy that everyone was afraid of because he had knocked out Ricardo Arona and Minotauro Nogueira.
Dude, this
Here we go.
reminds me, just this whole story reminds me of Baki. Like,
Yes.
straight up.
Oh, it's giving me Baki vibes.
Like, I feel like they just took this dude's life and made it into an anime.
Yup.
However, when push
Because there's like this black guy in that show that's like, reminds me of this dude.
Yeah.
came to shove, the explosive Cameroonian had nothing for the cold-blooded sniper.
High kick. Oh, good. But Joe, as you pointed out, a lot of he got caught.
just too
Sokuchu
big.
got caught. And now Machida trying to take advantage.
After futile attempts to finish the opponent with ground and pound, the Dragon passed to side control and squeezed the vice of the arm triangle.
The Jew's going to sleep. It is all over.
Now, the Brazilian was swimming with the great white sharks. The former champion Tito Ortiz was recovering from the loss of his belt and desperately wanted to get back on the right track.
Here we go.
Machida was moving around the cage nonchalantly, throwing snappy kicks.
Straight left hand. Oh, his first win since October of 2006. Machida again with an attack.
And even managed to take Ortiz down.
Oh, he takes down Ortiz.
In the third round, The Karate Kid delivered a piercing knee to the liver and chased a finish.
Finish it! Machida pounding away on Tito Ortiz!
Nevertheless, the bad guy recovered quickly and attempted a triangle armbar with 30 seconds left.
30 seconds remains! Can he finish it? 25 seconds remains!
Lyoto showed resiliency and made it to the bell for a decision win.
I wish this was a 5-rounder. What a battle!
Yeah, no, they definitely. You could tell.
Following this success, people finally respected his style. Dana White pointed out that the Dragon would become extremely difficult for anyone to hit. With a record of 13-0, he entered a title eliminator against the audacious and unbeaten Thiago Silva. Also an owner of 13 victories in a row, he was considered as one of the brightest prospects in MMA.
You ready? Fight!
From the word go, Thiago stepped on the gas, trying to impose back-and-forth exchanges. But Machida stopped the onslaught with brilliant counterattacks.
Nice body kick by Machida.
And during the next 3 minutes, the Dragon sent the opponent to the canvas several times.
Chase guys down and wear them out, but
Big left hook on Machida. A lot, Joe, you and I've talked about it on the air. Again with a nice combination.
Yet Silva would not stay down. The last seconds of the initial stretch were about to expire when Lyoto finally put an end to the confrontation.
And give you the opportunity to prepare what he throws at you. It's over. And it's over. This fight has been stopped.
watch as he passes, boom, right through. It's
A picture-perfect work by the virtuoso secured a shot at the belt. Back in those days, Rashad Evans was the king of the UFC light heavyweight mountain. Sugar wielded devastating power and held an unblemished record. It was a historic fight for the promotion. The first time two undefeated athletes collided for the crown.
Here we go!
Both fighters spent the opening couple minutes feeling each other out, until Lyoto blasted the signature karate special.
many styles. Taekwondo. Oh, he got hurt.
Machida looking to close it out. Machida's all over Rashad here.
The champion made it to the next round, but things only got worse from there.
Oh, big quick hands. And Rashad fires back.
Machida patiently waited for an opportunity before bursting with a same-time counter.
See and say K1 or in professional boxing.
Rashad's in big trouble. He got rocked.
And completing the task
Why
at
do they
hand.
keep attacking?
Rashad trying to regain his consciousness. That's what he took in the body.
Why don't they let him attack then?
Pride.
Fucking idiots.
No one wants to know they're getting teed off on, especially when it's happening and you get a crowd going, Lyoto, Machida, and they're cheering for him. And then, oh, boop, jab to your face. Oh, another one. Oh, you're trying to dodge. Oh, another one. You start getting slowly frustrated. It's mind over.
Yeah,
it's
I
mind
know.
over the physical.
He's got him.
He's got him mentally
I know.
because he's just letting him know, hey, I'm here for the whole 25. I'm not
Silly.
going until, yep. Because Johnson.
Oh, another shot.
He's getting teed off on.
He's done it. He's did it. It's all over.
What happened?
And here's the straight right, straight left hand, excuse me.
One of the most memorable knockouts in UFC history won the Dragon the coveted gold
Gamely hanging in there, that final left just
Oh.
shuts the lights
Oh.
out.
and gifted the legendary
Look at
Rashad
that,
face
dude. Do you
meme to
see
the
his
community.
face, bro?
It was the culmination for me. I am the new champion. All the trajectory in my life was going through my head at that moment. I could look back and see that it was all worth it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Machida era.
The first to dispute Lyoto's claim to the throne was the former Pride Grand Prix conqueror, Mauricio Hua. Shogun was predominantly leading the dance, investing into powerful kicks.
Good body kick.
Machida relied on his counterpunching and clinch work, exploding with flurries once in a while.
Nice knees to the body by Machida.
Joe's taken away from his offense.
Again with that. Leg
Here we
kick.
go. Lyoto Machida now swinging away. History coming into tonight.
Nice knee.
The confrontation lasted all 5 rounds in this manner, culminating in a razor-thin decision victory for the defending king.
This title fight.
The result caused a great deal of controversy, and the promotion decided to set up a rematch. Despite suffering
Wait, I
a
missed
broken
it.
arm
I
during
had
the
to
training
text.
camp, the Dragon refused,
What happened?
predominantly leading the dance. One of the most memorable knockouts in UFC history won the Dragon the coveted gold
Gamely hanging in there, but that final left just shuts the lights out.
and gifted the legendary Rashad face meme to the community. It was the culmination for me.
The Rashad face meme.
Yeah.
It's so funny that I pointed out his face. I mean, I've never seen this fight in my life. That's funny.
I am the new champion. All the trajectory in my life was going through my head at that moment. I could look back and see that it was all worth it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Machida era.
That's a scary fucking.
The first to dispute Lyoto's claim to the throne was the former Pride Grand Prix conqueror, Mauricio Hua. Shogun was predominantly leading the dance, investing into powerful kicks. Machida relied on his counterpunching and clinch work, exploding with flurries once in a while.
Nice knees to the body by Machida.
Joe's taken away from his offense.
Again with that.
Here we go. Machida now swinging away. Streak coming into tonight.
The confrontation lasted all 5 rounds in this manner, culminating in a razor-thin decision victory for the defending king.
This title fight.
Wait,
The result caused a great deal of controversy,
wow.
and the promotion
They were just bashing on each other.
She
Nobody was
decided
really
to set up a
winning.
rematch.
Well, yeah,
Despite
so then
suffering a
that
broken
fight
arm
just
during the
got
training camp,
to a decision, and it's like, okay, so some of the judges will score. You score the rounds,
Right, I know a little bit about scoring just because
So-
of Baki.
and boxing.
Yeah.
But so you score the round, the first round. So if someone just barely gets you, like just lands a couple more leg kicks, couple more punches to your face, then they will score that round 10-9. But if you beat someone's ass like pretty good, like you're getting the best of them every outing, that first round they'll score 10-8. You almost have to get knocked out for it to be a 10-7 round.
Right, but I know there's something to do with like blocking too, that it doesn't count as a point or something if you get.
And you count, so the judges score based off points. So if
Right.
you check a kick,
So,
you don't
but
get the
like
point.
what we're watching, for example, there's
With that.
fights that you could see like as an audience member where, you know, he's blocking, he only gets a few punches in, but those punches counted, and the other guy's punches were not counting,
Not counted, yep.
and so it looks like the other guy was winning,
But he
but
wasn't,
actually,
his weren't landing.
right,
He was more offense, but they weren't landing
Right.
the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. 120.
the Dragon refused to pull out of the contest.
Shogun and him,
Here we go.
Many expected
two.
another chess match, only to be shocked in the opening round.
And that could have nice knee to the body.
He got rocked. Shogun with the full out. He's the new UFC light heavyweight champion.
As soon as he got the full mount, Lyoto was in deep trouble, and there he's
there it is,
his loss.
the Shogun.
The Shogun, Mauricio. He's a demon slayer. Literally.
Jeez.
out.
Machida fell short for the first time and lost the title. I trained hard for this fight, but I lost. This is the essence of MMA. Sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose. I have no excuses. He was better than me
Oh,
and
wow.
deserved the victory.
That was a short fight, and look what he did to him.
Yeah, I know.
Lyoto was shaken up by this setback, although the one who got the most affected by it was the old master Yoshizo. Being extremely concerned about the health consequences, he suggested a retirement from MMA. Even though the son understood his father's worries well, the response was a firm no nonetheless.
Here we go.
Lyoto reappeared in the octagon 6 months afterwards to face a former champion, Quinton Jackson. The first 10 minutes were uneventful. In the third round, the Brazilian found the mark with a patented intercepting combo.
He got rocked. Machida swarming in. Big kick and a knee. Rampage explodes in return. Wow.
Rampage responded with an attempt to repeat the legendary slam.
Rampage Jackson special. They're back to their feet.
The judges awarded the split decision victory to the American, while most fans saw it the other way around. Even Jackson himself admitted defeat.
Because Machida whooped my ass tonight. I'm so ashamed of myself. My coach is going to get mad at me.
When fighters come back from a knockout, they start fighting differently. But I was still the same. I wanted to keep it standing and had belief in my karate. In April 2011, Machida was presented with an opportunity to retire the multiple-time UFC title holder Randy Couture, who had won 3 scraps back-to-back at 47 years old and was still in the hunt for the crown. Captain America tried to apply pressure. Lyoto's counters were on point.
Ryan in his corner tonight. Ryan, a mixed martial artist himself. An outstanding one.
By confusing the veteran with trickery, the Dragon lived up to the moniker.
Oh my goodness! It's all over! Oh my God! Wow!
No can defend. Look at that. Brilliant. Right on the chin, and Randy goes down.
He used his body when you're gonna see this, guys, when he used his body, so when he jumped, it's like, how am I supposed to explain it? It's like a seesaw. One end goes down, the other end goes up. When your leg lands, it throws all that energy into your right foot. Straight on kick to your jaw, out like a leg.
Nidangiri, a picturesque jumping front kick, sent Couture packing and his tooth flying.
Yeah.
Another masterpiece from the Brazilian that forever entered the hit parade of the best knockouts in UFC history. Following this success, Machida proceeded to challenge for the ultimate prize. At that point, the strap was wrapped around the waist of the young John Jones.
Undisputed #1 pound for pound of all time. If it wasn't for his cocaine addictions, his hit-and runs, he hit a pregnant lady, fled the scene. If it wasn't for so his only loss was a 12-6. Remember I was saying earlier the 12-6? His only loss in his career was a 12-6. In one of his amateur fights, he busted the dude up. The dude was knocked out. He lost the fight though, his only loss. Big test for Lyoto Machida. 6'4",
who violently took it from Shogun Rua and then annihilated Rampage.
And he's going to do that again.
Relaxed as always, Lyoto looked great at the outset, closing the distance with lightning speed and splitting the counterpart's timing. He was faster and more accurate, becoming the first to win a round against Jones in the octagon.
Pushing forward again is Machida. Decided to try to take this fight to the ground. Good kick to the...
Like any good champion, John Jones figured he can't fight me standing. In the next round, he took me to the ground and cut me up with an elbow. The blood began to pour into my eyes, and I was seeing 3 Joneses at once. After the intermission, the champion started advancing boldly and caught the Dragon coming in.
When he uses wrestling.
John dragged the Brazilian to the cage and clamped on a high elbow guillotine.
Trying to finish this fight.
The only salvation was the referee intervention.
He makes it. It is all over. It is all over. Wow. John Jones remains.
Subsequent to a failed attempt to regain the title, 34-year-old Machida moved to the US to get out of the comfort zone and change the training environment. The next obstacle was an accomplished wrestler, Ryan Bader, with a 14-2 record.
That man looks
Scheduled
like
for 5-minute round.
Lyoto was floating around the octagon in the usual stance, wielding his favorite Maegiris.
See the... And when he gets loose, he can be...
Frustrated Bader charged forward and paid a heavy price.
Me on the Ultimate Fighter again. Pushing attack. That's it. And it is all over. That is the problem.
Kyakuzuki, the classic short straight punch from karate, secured the 5th UFC finish for Lyoto and handed
How? Right in the kisser.
Bader the first career knockout loss.
Placement, perfect timing.
Simple and effective.
Fighter again. Pushing attack.
And his first
In
career
February
knockout.
2013, Machida was set
Loss. The other guy.
to collide with the former Pride and Strikeforce champion, Dan Henderson. Hendo came to the UFC riding a wave of victory over Fyodor and had not lost in 3 years.
Are underway.
He immediately tried to land the patented H-bomb. The Karate Kid
Unfortunately, we don't have our standing dictionary or our walking dictionary on boxing or UFC fighting, so I do not know as much as he does.
was elusive
Of Lyoto.
Unfortunately.
And Dan clinches
I
him.
still want
and
to watch
even
this. This is
executed
great.
beautiful trips from the clinch.
Take it down by Machida.
Lyoto takes Dan down. Oh, big shot by Lyoto.
Lyoto kept the veteran at bay using his signature kicks.
Powerful shot to the body. A lot of feints. Oh, jumping front kick to the face. Oh!
The fact, though, that he's able, this man's obviously quite big. He's able to sustain all those hits. You could even see with one of those kicks his whole body vibrating, but it looked like you're, kicking a rock. Didn't fucking move.
Oh, high kick.
As a result, the lackluster bout went to a decision, and the judges sided with the Brazilian.
Oh, he's not happy.
He reclaimed the #1 spot in the rankings, and instead of waiting for a title shot, accepted a fight with the 7th-ranked rising contender, Phil Davis.
So I don't know how all that works, but I'm assuming you would have to wait for a title shot or something. And he decided to go in and take out this guy instead, or try to.
We go. Nice right leg kick. Answered in a great combination.
Oh!
Machida was successful in the beginning. However, having witnessed the Dragon's striking arsenal, Davis promptly decided to switch to wrestling.
Get the takedown, yes. Brazil. Lyoto wanted to push forward and they clinch. Great job by Machida. Machida with a big right hand. Another beautiful right hand. Let's see if Phil can finish it. He does.
Lyoto came back in the 3rd round, banking the closing 5 minutes, but the judges turned away from him this time.
Mr. Wonderful!
After suffering yet another defeat, the Brazilian entertainer.
What is that, 4 defeats now? 5 defeats? I mean, there are close defeats. There was those 2, though. Where one he almost died. And the other one he,
the idea of dropping down in weight class. In recent bouts, he looked much smaller than his opponents, who overwhelmed him with size. So a decision was made to storm the 185-pound division. The UFC matched him up against a teammate, the #5 ranked Mark Munoz. They headlined an event in England.
That is interesting they did that. But he was #1, but he's still fighting those bigger guys. And he decided to drop down. I mean, I'm not sure. Obviously, smaller fighters, it doesn't necessarily mean they're better fighters.
Gloves, and we are underway.
For more than 3 minutes, the Dragon lulled Munoz to sleep with feints in order to get the job done with a single blow.
Output and trying to finish fights, and that's it. That's it. It's over.
Just like that.
You just nailed it. That Machida carries, especially in the middleweight division.
Right on that fucking shin.
Mawashi Giri Jadan, a traditional karate kick, was powerful enough to break through the Mexican's block. Machida saw the opportunity to pounce, and being a true martial artist, preferred to refrain.
Moving for the kill and decided not to.
Now firmly in the top 5, Lyoto clashed with the former Strikeforce and Dream champion, Gegard Mousasi, for the #1 contender status. The Brazilian stayed out of the rival's range, inflicting damage with powerful kicks.
Big kick for Machida. Unexpected flurries from Lyoto. Machida. Oh, beautifully done. Mousasi kind of abandoned.
By the late rounds, the karate practitioner entered a flow state, showcasing the whole deadly toolbox.
There's a little sit. Big knee there. Well, Mousasi has had his moments.
Jeez.
Nice right hand from Machida.
Jumped on him.
Machida reigned supreme by unanimous decision and earned
gonna make
another
me wanna
title
watch
opportunity
boxing.
at the age of
UFC.
36. The UFC middleweight ruler at the time was the undefeated Chris Weidman, who had recently shocked the world by knocking out the longtime king, Anderson Silva.
We are underway.
From the opening seconds, the American mixed up strikes with takedowns.
Lyoto's got to up. There's the shot again. Just past the midway point of this title fight.
He applied constant pressure, preventing the challenger from finding the right beat.
And down again.
The bout reached the championship rounds. Many have already written off the bleeding Lyoto, but it was at this moment when the Dragon spread his wings.
Good left hook by Lyoto.
Machida became more aggressive.
I can just tell. I mean, it's obviously where they're really far into this fight. Machida still got gas in the tank, and the American over here on that first punch, just a little bit sluggish.
Trying to starch the opponent with every punch.
So I think Machida beat him
Can't attack him
with
again.
stamina.
We got ourselves a fight. Wow. A lot of support for the Brazilian.
Exhausted, he kept trying to finish the All-American till the very end, but time was of the essence.
Trying to pull off a miracle. By Machida. 8 seconds.
Machida firing away.
The judges unanimously awarded the win to Weidman. That evening, Lyoto was as close as ever to recapturing the throne, yet
That's rough. I mean, we only saw like 1 or 2 rounds of that, obviously. This is a Machida video, not a whatever that dude's name is video. And he really probably stood his own out there in the ring.
he was classy in defeat.
What a fight.
Following a misstep, the Brazilian got back into action against CB Dalloway, who had won 4 of the last 5. It took the Dragon 1 minute to get the rival out of there.
So often we see the very technical Machida, and he hurt him.
Early body shot by Machida. Dalloway in all sorts
This is
of
going to be
trouble.
over.
Lyoto Machida. How about it?
Mawashi Giri Chudan, a body kick right to the liver, folded the American in half. Another knockout from Machida, and the 8th post-fight bonus. This victory reinstated him in the title conversation. But then a really rough patch began in the 37-year-old Lyoto's journey. He suffered 3 losses in a row against the new elite of the middleweight division.
From Romero. Oh, 2 elbows. That's it. Yoel Romero.
Rumors of retirement started to go around. For the first time in my career, I tasted 3 defeats in a row. This was another obstacle on my path I had to overcome.
Bringing it back to the very beginning of the video, you have to fight or beat yourself to succeed or to get to the next part. He said, obviously, the old wise man said it way better. But the point is that you have to overcome your own challenges through your life, and that is what we're seeing happen with Machida. He never gave up. And
the news broke out that shortly before his 40th...
you really love and you really want to do, take a page from Machido's book and really, when you do fail, when there is that time in your life where things do get hard, don't blame yourself. Don't blame other people. Move on to the next step and look at the past and what, was hard for you or what you failed at or maybe weren't so happy about. And take that extra step that makes you want to, not roll out of bed in the morning. Take that extra step and see where it leads you. We'll see where it leads Machida.
His birthday, the veteran would test Eric Anders, who is considered to be a rising power with a perfect 10-0 record. Machida opened as a huge underdog. As if the pressure wasn't enough, the event took place in Belém, the Dragon's backyard. Despite all the odds, Lyoto pleased the home crowd with a long-awaited victory. And Anders said goodbye to the precious 0 in the defeat column.
And moving forward there. But here we go, back to the same old story. Body kick from Machida.
Lyoto, the Dragon.
Having won for the first time in 3 years, in May 2018, Machida stood across Vitor Belfort. The former champion was far from his
This 2018. This is 5 years ago.
peak, coming off a hard-earned win nonetheless. The Dragon spent a whole round mesmerizing the compatriot with feints, in order to seal the deal with a single snap at the right time. Ironically, it was the same Mai Giri Jadan that ended Randy Couture's career, and now Belfort suffered a similar fate. The seasoned warrior's athleticism may have diminished over the years, while the skill remains intact forever.
Lyoto, the Dragon, Machida.
There's his coach, dad, father.
The 40-year-old Lyoto had fought out his contract with the UFC. The promotion wanted to renegotiate, but Bellator offered better terms. After 11 years and 24 appearances, the Dragon left the Absolute promotion. In his debut, Lyoto faced the previous belt owner, Rafael Carvalho, who had just lost the title in the last outing. Despite suffering a broken nose in the first frame, Machida continued to push forward daringly.
So I don't know much about this, but just from what my buddy said, he said the Bellator is like the G League in basketball, so that means it's not as good. They're supposedly not as good fighters. But why would he do that if it's more lucrative for him to do this? I mean, I don't know exactly what that was about.
Unleashing the versatile kicking arsenal.
His foray in MMA later. Machida catches Carl. Front kick by Machida. Superman's abilities. Machida.
Summoning all the strength and will, the vet clawed out the final 5 minutes and the decision win. Getting some traction, the Dragon encountered Chael Sonnen, a part-time prize fighter at that point. The American gangster tried to push the action until Lyoto floored him with a debilitating knee.
Oh! Wow.
Sonnen survived to see the next round, but never learned the lesson.
Oh! Again!
Another juicy knockout in the Karateka's collection. With this victory, the old dog entered the list of top contenders, only to suffer a series of setbacks. He lost close decisions to old acquaintances, Mousasi, Davis, and Bader, although making good account of himself in these bouts. The real turning point was the loss of the 44-year-old veteran to Fabian Edwards.
Rashad Evans.
And it's over.
Lyoto Machida is a true martial artist in every sense of the word. Coming from a karate background and beating the best of his generation, the traditional martial arts aficionado made the whole world respect his style.
He's getting teed off on. He's down.
Today, the Brazilian's career is close to its conclusion, but no matter what happens next, the Dragon's achievements will undoubtedly have a place in MMA history books. Karate is often written as karate do. Do is the way, same as in judo. The way is the philosophy. Respect people. Don't step over your principles. Persist, because adversaries will be along the entire way, not only inside the competition, but in your life.
Very true. Thank you for that.
If you watched a video from Graham Stephan, Andre Jick, Some Ordinary Gamers, or The Quartering in the past year, you've probably seen a sponsorship from the company
I've already seen this.
Titles. Now, despite
So, yeah. Basically, Established Titles is a scam.
Those fun, tangible assets as gifts for the upcoming holidays. And thanks to today's sponsor, Established Titles, you can do exactly that and become a lord or lady.
Shout out to this video's sponsor.
So, you heard that, you know the Established Titles. If you've seen it on YouTube, you know the sponsorship, Established Titles. It is a scam. The reason it is a scam is because you can't have your name as Lord or Lady or Laird or whatever it is based off of a plot of land. In the laws of Scotland, there's a law that makes it so you are not an actual loan or landowner if it's smaller than I forget how much some maybe meter by meter or 4 meters by 4 meters, I'm not sure. A small piece of land, if you have that, it's I think they call it a souvenir land owner or something like that, but it doesn't make you a landowner in Scotland, and therefore you're definitely not a lord or a lady. So that's obviously scammy right there. And then also on top of that, they say that they are giving you a plot of land, but if you actually wanted to go to Scotland to get your plot of land or see your plot of land or plant a tree on your plot of land, you wouldn't be able to, because that plot of land that you bought is already owned by Established Titles. Established Titles is just giving you a gift certificate, basically stating that you paid for this part of land that they own. That's basically what you're paying for. And to circumvent the fact that it is a bit scammy, they are saying that a lot of the proceeds that are being used are being or that are there are being used for or being used towards a tree planting charity organization where they actually go out and plant your trees. So that is kind of how they're covering their own asses, is by saying that they're using the money to at least plant a tree. So yeah, the whole lord or lady part is all BS. You're not a lord or lady if you bought this. Unfortunately, you were scammed from that. If that's why you bought it, if you bought it for the the tree planting aspect of it all, we really at this point don't know if that's really where the money's going to. You can check out the video. I'll try to get the links in the description. No promises. It's my birthday, and I'm not really trying to do a lot, but I will say that they also the owner of Established Titles is also an owner of Deal Dash and another company, a couple other companies, I believe. And obviously, if you look into Deal Dash is a bit shady too. So it's just unfortunate that Established Titles got into the YouTube space and on the ads, and people, probably were scammed out of their money, which sucks. So yeah, that's the news. That's what I got for you today on my birthday. That's it. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. Yeah. It's been an interesting year for the Curs. And let's make next year, or this coming year, 10 times better than the last year. I would say this last year is better than the last year before that, so we're on the right track. So let's keep it up. Thank you for supporting the stream. Thank you for supporting me. And I really do appreciate it. It really means a lot to anybody who does support me at this time. I know that I'm not like a huge name or anything, and my content is a bit not rusty, but what is that called? Rough around the edges. So thank you for supporting me in my journey through this, and I will be back soon, and probably actually today I might just hop on COD and stream, just because why not. But anyways, that's it, and happy